Let us get started with the class. So the format for the class today, we're going to be talking in this Module 3 about attention and problem solving. And so we're going to actually start talking about problem solving. And I was actually asking the class here, and we're recording for the online group, about chess playing. Because chess playing is a very interesting activity. Because what makes chess playing, as far as problem solving, such a unique activity? Do we have people in the class? Can you raise your hands if you've ever played the game of chess before? Okay, so just about everybody in the face-to-face class, not sure online. What about different levels of things? How many people would consider themselves kind of just very novice players, just beginning level players, maybe at best? Anybody consider themselves at that particular thing? So can I ask you, Madison, why would you, what does that term mean to you? Why would you say you're kind of a beginner in that situation?
Because I'm not 100% familiar with how all the pieces move, where they should go.
Yeah, just kind of have the basics down. Now, would anybody in the class consider themselves to be pretty sharp at the game of chess? Sam, you were kind of raising your hand there. Can you share with the class why you feel, as compared to a novice, that you are somewhat better than that?
I've played it for a while, and then I played it a lot this summer.
So you played it a lot this summer, kind of had a lot of practice, and got good at things. So what I wanted to start the class off with, as far as your note-taking, you have the agenda before you, is, I've never done this in a class before. But I'm holding something before you here. Let's see if it actually says it somewhere in there. Oh, there it is. Paula, would you do me the favor for the rest of the class? It's kind of falling apart a bit now, but can you read what it actually says on the bottom here? Don't worry about it.
The 1975 New Jersey Junior Championship Under 12, second place.
So it says 1975 New Jersey Championship Under 12, second place. So who do you think that was? That was me, 1975. I was 11 years old. I'll share a little more personal information with you. But you can write down that I did come in second place in the Under 12 Championship in New Jersey. I was, I think, 11 years old in 75, born in 64. So we're actually going back a little bit in memory lane, but you can write that down, that I was an Under 12 champion. You don't have to write this next part down. We lived in Hong Kong, my family, in 73 and 4. My dad worked in pharmaceuticals, director of marketing in Southeast Asia. And as it turned out, when you're a family of 4, you collect stamps. Do we have any stamp collectors in the room here? Used to be kind of a popular thing. And learned how to play chess. My sister, now I was in 3rd grade. My sister was in 7th grade. My sister knew how to play chess, so she showed me how to move the pieces. And then guess what she asked me if I wanted to do? 7th grade female taught her brother in 3rd grade how to move the pieces, so what would she want to do? Do you want to play a game? Why would she ask me that question if I had just learned how the pieces move?
Because she knew she could win.
She knew she could win, but guess what happened?
She lost.
I actually won my first ever game. When you're in 3rd grade and you beat a 7th grade sister, is that kind of a big deal? Yeah, it kind of is. And I actually started playing my dad, who was actually used to be a chess player a long time ago in Wisconsin, and started really developing my craft as I was doing that. It was kind of just a fun game to play. We moved back to New Jersey in 1975, and the first thing that happened, as I share this experience with you, you may want to write down, Dr. Tausman is sharing his experiences with you, is I played, they put me in this tournament. So I got back home and they said, well, let's see how Stuart can do in this tournament. And so I played in this particular tournament, and it was the Under 12 Championship. And how did I do? Kate, how did I do?
You came in second.
I came in second place. I was the second best player in the state under the age of 12. So does anybody know, and this will be important for our discussion today, I actually won 5 games and lost 1. Does anybody know how it works in the professional chess world as far as beginners versus advanced players? People heard of Bobby Fischer before? Kind of a famous grandmaster player. Does anybody know how you actually get determined on what your rank is in chess? This might be important to denote in your notes. If you're a good chess player, you get a rating. This will be important for your notes. You get a rating. And so a novice player might be, God bless you, 2 times, 3 times is usually the charm. A novice player usually has a rating below 1,000, maybe 700 to 1,000. So if you're a beginner player playing in tournaments, maybe 700 to 1,000. Bobby Fischer, very famous player, his rating, he was considered what we call a grandmaster. Have you guys heard that term before? Maybe in the 2600s. The 2600s. It turned out that when I went 5-1, my rating after my first tournament was 1,500. Not bad after your first tournament, huh? But then I started, and if you want to write this down as well, my dad and mom said, well, maybe we should take him to regular tournaments. There was a once-a-month tournament, professional circuit, about 20 minutes away from the house in New Jersey, and they would take me there. And I went from 5-1, and I started playing people that were 1,500 in rank, and guess what happened? Was I really a 1,500 ranked player? Desha, what would you say? Probably not. So I went from 5-1 to 5-34. I lost 34 straight games from 5th kind of through 7th grade. How do you think that was for me psychologically? That was kind of tough. And in the 70s, the rooms would be filled with smoke, and you'd be playing games for hours, and asthma wasn't really the thing to do. But then something very interesting started happening. I got down to about 1,000 was my rating after the 34-game losing streak. But then what do you think started happening when I got down to that level? Taliban? What do you think would start happening to me when I got down to that level?
I think you started getting better.
I started getting better. I started learning from all the errors in my ways and started figuring it out. And by the end of my career, in 1978, I'd actually gotten back up to maybe 1,700. I'd gotten a lot better. I'd moved up through the ranks, learned how to do things in a positive way, and actually ended up being a very strong chess player. The reason, and you don't need to write this for your notes, the reason I went from chess playing to what's my main hobby, biking, is sitting in a room for 12 hours with smoke, playing 3 games and doing that. Very good for the thinking, but just wasn't my style. Biking was much more active and I wanted to do that, so I just let it go, and my parents said that was fine. So that's kind of my information to you. What would you call, now this is kind of a research-based class, correct? We're going to do a research project at the end. The story I'm telling you, my personal story, what would you actually call that? Am I sharing with you an experiment? What am I actually sharing with you? I mean, do you believe my story? What would you actually call that if it was it's not a study, but would you consider this important information? What would you call this kind of information?
It could be qualitative data.
Very qualitative, kind of a case report. And I think I put on the agenda something about, what was it? A personal phenomenological approach. This was kind of phenomenological. Are you guys familiar with that term? I was describing my phenomenon of going through this yeah, you could set up a study and then try to study what's going on with this, but some kind of useful phenomenon. So what I wanted to have the class do, so you know about ratings, you know novices and grandmasters, shared with you some details from my personal career. I'm going to stop the first recording.